space of a few moments, you'll see just how fast and easy it is to set the tabletop creasing machine for any of your creasing jobs. To put one score down the middle, first we'll measure the width of the sheet. Then, using the rulers on the feeder side, we'll set up the two in-feed guides. Simply loosen the screws on the bottom and move the two in-feed guides into position. No tools are required here. Next, we're going to manually pull the sheet through to position the Tri-Creaser and the sheet transfer wheels in the correct position. Here again, you can use the rulers on the outfeed side to position all your tools in approximate position. To do this, simply loosen the Tri-Creaser and the transfer wheels with the T-handled Allen wrench. Slide them all into position and lock them into place. Now we're going to repeat this process with the components on the bottom shaft. The only exception here is that we're going to leave the female component of the Tri-Creaser loose, and in just a few seconds we'll show you how to center that correctly so you get the optimum crease. To center the female in the correct position, we then take a sheet of the stock that we're going to run and manually run it through 1 or 2 revolutions. And with the sheet still in place, you then lock the female into position. Next, rotate the sheet through just a bit more in order to locate the delivery guides in the proper position. The side guides have magnetic bases and easily pop into position. The rear guide locks into position using a single built-in locking handle. Finally, we'll do a quick double check to be sure we have the right gap or pressure on the sheet. There should be a slight drag on the transfer wheels, and the gap between the male and the female in the Tri-Creaser components is typically about the same thickness as the sheet that you're running. We now turn the machine on and run a test sheet, always making sure to score into the face of the sheet. Now we'll check 3 items. The first, fold it over to be sure the crease setting is right for the stock that you're running. You have 8 basic settings available, and if it looks okay, then number 2, we'll check it for squareness, and if needed, use a micro skew adjustment on the in-feed table to square it up. The third item to check is position side to side, and here again, if a minor adjustment is needed, there's a micro side lay adjustment on the side of the feed table for fine-tuning the side to side position. For major adjustments, 1/8 of an inch or more, you'll need to move the Tri-Creaser or the in-feed guides, whichever you prefer. And that's it, we're ready to run. Run a handful of sheets, recheck the items above, and check the register. So as you can see, in only 3 minutes we have completely set up the tabletop creasing machine and run a handful of samples with make ready requiring only 1 sheet. In this clip, we'll set up and run another job, again using 1 score, this time on a slightly heavier stock and on a different size sheet. We'll simply repeat the process, moving from the in-feed through the delivery. We're not going to edit here in order to show you how quickly a changeover can go. Always be sure that the stock that you're running through the tabletop creasing machine is trimmed squarely in order to maintain consistent register. The stock shown here is a 15 point against the grain and typically would require a die score. We'll run a test sheet and check it out as we did before, checking for squareness, correct crease setting, and side to side position. And if all looks good, we'll grab a small handful of sheets, about a ½ inch of stock or so, fan it out, position it on the in-feed table. A rubber finger is helpful here. And as you can see, it feeds from the top. Feeding is easy and quite fast. We can typically average about 4,000 sheets per hour when doing longer runs. But a more average 500 to 1,000 sheet run will only take about 6 to 8 minutes to run once it's set up. To check the register, take a handful of crease sheets and fan them out. The creases should line up perfectly from sheet to sheet. Removing the shafts on the TCM is fast and easy. Simply loosen the single Allen screw on the retaining bushing. Slide the bushing inward. And remove the shaft. As you can see, it literally takes about 10 seconds or so to pull the shaft or reinstall it. Usually a shaft removal is needed only to add or to remove a tool, or to replace a used creasing rib. Next, I'll show you how to change from one creasing rib to another. There are 3 ribs, orange for light stock, blue for medium, and yellow for heavy. In this case, we'll switch from the yellow creasing rib to the blue. Simply loosen the retaining collar on the Easy Fit Tri-Creaser, slide the yellow ring off, thread the blue ring through, moving it into the active position on the Tri-Creaser. 2 ribs are always in storage, 1 is always active. Slide the retaining collars back on. Give it a little push to snug it up, but not too tightly. And then lock the ribs into place. Next, we want to match the blue creasing rib with one of the blue color-coded female channels. Loosen the bushing as if you were going to pull the shafts and gently lift up the shaft and slide the female collar into position, matching into one of the blue female channels. Then relock the shaft. Lastly, recenter the female as shown in the previous clip.